Podcasts proudly presents the Broadcasters Podcast, a weekly media commentary talking about traditional and digital media headlines and talking to the content creators out front and behind the scenes. Here is the king of podcasts.
And here we are with another Broadcasters Podcast, closing in on year 2, starting up year 3 very soon. King of Podcasts here with you. Thank you for being here with me. Yes, you might hear a difference in the microphone if you listen to the show enough. I put up my other microphone in favor of putting a different microphone on right now. This is just a temporary until I get my brand new Shure SMV7. What is that called? Yeah, the Shure MV7. That's the USB version of the microphone. And this one I'm putting on phantom power, so it actually sounds pretty good tonight. I like it. It's got a good sound to it. It's one I've used on the road for my full-time commitments. So I decided to use that tonight while I wait for the other microphone to show up next week. Just a little inside baseball, if you really care to know. Something I'm excited about. Maybe some of you will be excited about too. But either which way. Tonight on the program, a lot about streaming, because that's the focus of what the major corporate entities in media are looking to do going in the next year and how much they're going to be spending. When I thought Netflix was spending a lot of money, wow. Disney had a big investor day today, and they gave out a whole lot of news, and it's just really just flooding the headlines right now in the media entertainment industry. Warner Brothers also in the news with what they did last week in terms of basically just putting their entire movie setup in the theaters and simultaneously on HBO Max. Knowing what was going to go on today with Disney, there was no doubt they were going to decide to go somewhat the same route. So we'll look at exactly what they all did here today and what's happened over the week here in media entertainment to talk about, and we'll find out where we are with things. The other stories we have is, we're getting from other different angles where the talent agents and the Directors Guild and other agencies and people are thinking about their thoughts about what's going on here with Disney Plus and or Warner Brothers and the streaming. The streaming. I like to do alliteration sometimes, so I can't find an S that always works with it. But really, it is a flooding of streaming content where the pandemic has created the ultimate storm of ideas where, okay, the corporate feels, you know what? It's time to go ahead and let the traditional brick and mortar models of programming to terrestrial cable networks, those are going to be secondary now. Streaming is now our priority. So the pandemic has caused a priority to these corporate types to now put all their eggs prioritizing into streaming and everything. So making the layoffs, making the changes in staffing, downsizing, micromanaging, getting to the point where they can start streaming, because now they're going to hope that all their eggs in their basket, they're going to go for streaming and see what happens now. Plus some of the news we're going to talk about when it comes to Spotify, because they're looking to go and offer videos and music documentaries at some point in the line. That might be down the line for people. And we'll have some stories on journalism when it comes to how we have new journalistic models out there and how people feel about the state of journalism going into 2021. And that will line up pretty well with my featured guest tonight, which I'll have in the interview a little bit later on, the second half of the program. Warren H. Cohn. He is CEO and founder of HeraldPR and CEO and co-founder of Emerald Digital. Again, it's a New York City-based public relations firm that focuses on providing expert services to its clients, specializing in traditional public relations, social media, and digital advertising, company and personal branding, website development, and crisis management. And there's a whole lot to talk to them about tonight. There's quite a few things that will be very imperative to what our discussion is tonight here in terms of media and what's being done. We're going to talk all about that here on the program. A loaded Broadcasters Podcast. Buckle up. God, that's so cliche, but yeah, I just did it. Okay. One of those moves today, kind of surly, we are winding things down for the year. The holidays they're kind of just here, and not sure what to think of them. Again, I feel like I've lacked so much saturation. I mean, think about it. The way we like our entertainment presented this year is odd. Again, only going to the movies, I think 7 or 8 movies I saw this year total. What did I see? Like 3 or 4 in January, 4 I think it was in February, and another 3 in March, and that was it. So yeah, maybe 10 movies, and then Tenet. And that's all I've seen all year. When I'm used to going 45, 50 times a year to the movie theaters. Every Friday, if there's something out to go watch, that's where I'm going. And now, the change of the habits will... am I going to want to be inclined to go ahead and watch Wonder Woman 1984 on HBO Max? I guess so, because my Regal Cinema is still not open yet. And I don't want to go ahead and go to another theater out of my way. It's like I like my convenience. And, just like the way things are over there. Not to mention the movie show times are still so early. I mean, they close at 9 o'clock, maybe 10. But again, it's like I have other things I want to do. I like that 9, 9:30, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock showing that I can catch a movie at my movie theater. That's one of the things that also has to be considered when it comes to the theaters and their show times. I mean, they were cutting them down. But again, they were cutting down because of a lot of costs and a lot of security measures. I get that. A lot of things going on as to why they're doing what they were doing. And we don't know where the movie theaters are going to be coming back in some way, shape, or form. Again, the barrage of lockdowns going on around the country, I talked about this last week, the same thing goes again. And it's just not understandable. And I'm talking to some people I know in LA and New York and just saying, man, wow, you guys are just in a rough shape. And the bastions of entertainment for movies and television in particular, and then music to an extent, they've been completely hampered this year. And did it need to be so lockjaw like they've done this year? I don't think so. But they chose to do this. It's where we are. And now we're dealing with it. It's a lot to take in. Or take on, as a matter of fact. Okay, let's go into some stories here. And now, again, my interview with Warren H. Cohn will come up a little bit later on in the program. All right, first thing off, main headline we're going to go and start off with here. I want to go and start now with a story I found from awfulannouncing.com. Really quickly, they want to go ahead and give a full overview of what to expect from the entertainment landscape in 2021. I might not go through this whole story because I probably will think I'm going to need some things to talk about for the next couple of weeks. So I might hold some stories over just in case. But again, I like to put these stories and have them ready to go if I need to. I have more than enough that I need to talk about. And they're all available on all my social media feeds. So again, on Twitter and on Facebook at King of Podcasts. Just look for it there. And you look for it on the description of this very episode. I have them there as well. So if you want to catch all the latest headlines I find throughout the week that I want to talk about in the show, I put them there for all of you to go ahead and follow along with me. So one of the things here is for sports fans. Not a bad place to kind of start. Again, is where does streaming fit in the whole dynamic of everything for media consumers? Watching music, watching more movies, television, and sports. Those three right there and together. So Holly Waltzer writes, the pivots we've had to make in many aspects of our lives extends to the way business has been conducted and will continue as we enter 2021. The entertainment landscape continues to evolve. We know Warner Media dropped a major bombshell this past week, announcing their entire slate of 2021 releases will skip the box office and debut on HBO Max. The streaming service is a combination of what feels like 15 HBO streaming services. That includes major releases of Mortal Kombat and Matrix 4, a 1-month release window for HBO Max in each title, as it would in theaters. And according to the New York Times, HBO Max will pay Warner Brothers a licensing fee for the 31-day concurrent rights. The fee will be equal to the studio's portion of ticket sales in the United States. Ticket sales are usually 50-50 between studios and theaters. Well, it's a little more towards the theaters as it is in streaming. We talked about that back in March when Trolls World Tour decided to go ahead and be put onto streaming, digital video on demand, premium, instead of going to the theaters with it. Or waiting for the theaters to come back at that point, remember? Now, again, Warner Media says this is only for 2021. But again, if we're being real, she says, this is why I think this is important. This is changing the entire landscape of traditional release of entertainment content. Now, this is where I think she's coming from that makes a whole lot of sense. Now, streaming has changed the entire business model. The traditional cable format is on a lifeline, but history repeats itself. Streaming services can now be easily argued as traditional cable 2.0, with bundling and pricing mirroring what consumers used to pay. The difference is how much it costs for the delivery of that product. Wi-Fi and broadband delivery costs is pennies compared to traditional cable, and that's why providers who didn't offer broadband have gone out of business. And as consumers, we want content on demand, preferably all at once and on every device, which is why on cable and network TV, you still have a remote control that works with all these different devices. And let's just say that the Apple TVs, Chromecast might have Google TV right now, and the Amazon Fire Stick, they're only so accessible, they're not universal, which is what people want. Now, the top box office titles now are in your living room, and that's what makes the Warner Media deal such a monumental move. And it went for Warner, HBO Max, and consumers. Their subscriber base right now, in this report, is 38 million. It will hopefully, and by the way, Disney just announced they're at 83 million subscribers now. Wow. So this will hopefully nudge an agreement to be completed with HBO Max and Roku, because that's one thing that's hurting HBO Max is they have not finalized the deals with other providers of content. So like they got Amazon Fire just recently working together, and now Roku and HBO Max need to get themselves on the same page and sign up. So one of the people that there's been some big names that have been very vocal about what's been going on here with streaming that are very traditionalist, it feels like. Christopher Nolan, who directed Tenet. You know, he's done a lot of great movies. And, you know, he's an important name. And the Directors Guild of America, I'm sure, also is in lockstep with what's going on here. But here's what Christopher Nolan said. Quote, some of our industry's biggest filmmakers and most important movie stars went to bed the night before thinking they were working for the greatest movie studio and woke up to find they were working for the worst streaming service. End quote. That is tough. And then Holly rolls on and says, we are selfish, though. Well, what's in it for us? Blockbuster movies included in your $14.99 price tag for HBO Max. And the move is major. And we won't know what the results are until the dust settles and if the move was worth it. And again, this is HBO Max and Warner Brothers taking a chance on this to get more subscribers. But again, you know, everybody's playing the idea of what 2021 is going to be. They're basically assuming the worst. They're playing worst case scenario right now. They're not even thinking about things opening back up next year. They're basically scrapping next year for any chance to go ahead and start a reopening or a return to normalcy in the movie theater front. I think that's what they feel like is going on, right? I can't imagine, she says, that reasonable cost stays put or that the titles continue to be released inclusive of the HBO Max and monthly fee. And then she talks about the future of live sports streaming, which is quite important. And, you know, streaming needs to have needs to have space for sports going forward. And who has that right now? And then we'll get back to the stories when it comes to the other movie studios and all the other stuff that was going on with Disney Plus. We'll talk about that in a minute. But first, let me take this point here where she comes across. She got me here so far. Let's go and continue on. So we've been teased with the idea of a standalone sports streaming app for years now. When 21st Century sold off to the regional sports network properties to Disney, there was the opportunity. But then they were forced to sell them off, landing at Sinclair, and for both properties it has benefited both as intended. The creation of Fox Sports Go was the first major step in live sports streaming, Couch rights were created with the ability to watch your game wherever you were with authentication through your provider. ESPN Plus came after, and they continue to grow their library, including bundling with other services like Hulu and Disney Plus. And the regional sports networks will probably come next. Now, there's a recent agreement between Sinclair Broadcasting and Bally Sportsbook, a partnership agreement. And there's the evolution of sports gambling growing in additional markets. Yes, online gaming is big, and I'm actually putting some money in on it right now. Since the casinos are not opened up, the traditional sports betting, which really drives a lot of interest of what's going on, well, I mean, let's just say this too. There's been a lot of pirating of sports content for a long time online. For this to go ahead and traditionally now go on as a standard thing is nothing new. It will not be a major change. We already see that. It's just that the major broadcasters will finally go ahead and step in and now make streaming imperative. They'll have to make the same decisions the movie studios and the networks are doing the same way. And part of it is because of their own bettors. Because they're also owned by corporate giants in the same vein. Disney being one. Which is why it's important to see what Disney does in their investor meeting. Because again, they're talking about not just Disney, but Fox. So that's ABC, ESPN, and all Fox properties. Again, sports, movies, television. There's so much involved in that meeting today. The market for sports on streaming could be an estimated $50 million market, $50 billion market by 2025, according to Wall Street Journal. Yes. That's what we're talking about. There's so much money to be made. But again, is it at the risk of the traditional outlets getting hurt? Because if streaming is going to be all the rave, how much cord cutting is that going to make? How much of the subscription fees are going to be taken away for the likes of ESPN or Fox Sports 1 or 2, right? Or all the ESPN channels. Like, you're banking on streaming to make more money at the risk of losing remaining money that you have from cable and network. That's what you're working with. That's the point. So there are so many stories we could talk about with HBO Max. Let's go with HBO Max a little bit more and talk about this overall. Washington Post decided to go put a story out that, I rarely go to them, but they don't put a whole lot that comes to entertainment. But they put something out here that was interesting. So again, Warner Brothers, let me rephrase that. Wall Street and Silicon Valley have largely embraced Warner Brothers' decision to shift all movies to digital until 2022. Hollywood, though, is alarmed and seeking ways to fight back. So we're going to continue. With the up goes, people are not going to be completely signed off on it, and that's totally understood. Since Warner Brothers announced the digital pivot, Wall Street's embraced the company. AT&T stock has risen 6% since Thursday. Silicon Valley has commended the move, often strongly for its triumph over legacy practice. Kara Swisher reported that the future got here years ago, and it was called Netflix. Get on board, all you overpaid Hollywood babies. But now, within the entertainment business, the decision to take films like Dune and Matrix 4 to home platforms has provoked both widespread anger and a commitment to fight, even at times doing the Hollywood impossible, uniting parties on both sides of the table. The objections come from groups far beyond theater owners, include producers, directors, publicists, managers, agents, lawyers, and financiers. I'm sure the talent doesn't like the fact that they're not going to make so much money on having their stuff streamed. They're expecting big money, and, they're expecting the normal, the promotional appearances. Because are you going to really do a whole lot of promotion when it comes to streaming content like you would to get people to drag them to the theaters? I mean, the production budget is going to be, or the promotional budget is going to be cut by a lot, right? There will be no news junkets, no press junkets, nothing like that. Would they really need that? No. There's going to be a lot of cost cutting here in the traditional way of promoting these kind of events because they're streaming, right? You're not putting it at a premium price. You're taking the price tag away. I think people need to understand that. The talent, The people behind the scenes, their work is being devalued by going streaming. That's how they feel. And it is because the effort, the money, the resources are going to be cut in a different way. And this is a cost-cutting measure. In a way, again, downsizing, as they're doing right now, these corporate entities, which is why I don't like corporate in a lot of things. What they're doing in managing this right here, again, the technology is there. It's great. But you're now going to go full on. You're going to go all in, cash in all your chips on this because the pandemic caused it. And is this a good idea? And for those that are waiting to get themselves back on the road, again, are people going to just want to be entertained on their devices, on their television sets, and that's it? Aren't you changing the culture a bit here by making it that people are not going to want to go see the movies in the theaters as they did? Make it an event to go see concerts. No, let's go ahead and spend a lot of money on streaming. Virtual concerts, virtual this, virtual that. Is that where we want to go right now? Are we completely abandoning physical events altogether? That's what I don't understand. I mean, so what? Then you're going to have the stars and the talent and the people behind the scenes. They're going to go to the award shows for streaming content. I don't know how that's going to work. Again, I don't think that's going to matter too much when it comes to the Oscars, the Golden Globes, next month or going into 2021. I don't know if that's going to make a difference or not. But again, when it comes to the content creator, the people that are really doing the creative work, doing the grunt work right now or every day, kind of your blue collars, and the talent that are able to go and make this possible for you. Unless you just feel like, well, we're just going to go and just recreate something and we'll just find somebody good enough to go and play the role just to play the part of something else. So it's not even a matter of like real original talent. It's just someone that can play the part of an original talent before. Just somebody that's going to be just, a mimicker, a copycat. Hollywood says that the deal for HBO Max and Warner Brothers shuts off the waterfall. The industry's term not just for the billion global dollars that a Hollywood blockbuster can produce, but for the revenue that flows from the full complement of DVD, digital rental, and merchandising that finances much of their own payouts. The HBO Max move is shaping more than just the question of where movies can be seen, but the soul of Hollywood itself. Whether it should be governed by the mix of art, commerce, and relationships that have animated it for decades, or move into a new era in which it functions predominantly as a supplier to and supporter of the world's largest distribution platforms. Let me read that again to you. This is the crux of what this program is all about. This is very important. Again, the HBO Max move, and goes, insert Disney Plus, insert Apple TV, insert Netflix, insert, whatever digital streaming service you want. That might give themselves Amazon. That's going to play ball with doing premium video on demand, skipping the theaters, and going right to streaming. Here we go. This is a corporate move. You understand? The HBO Max move is shaping up as more than just a question of where movies can be seen, but the soul of Hollywood itself. Whether it should be governed by the mix of art, commerce, and relationships that have animated for decades, which is what I support. And I'm sure many of you that listen to this program support that same kind of freedom, that same kind of environment where culture and creativity can thrive. We want organic diversity, equity, inclusion. We don't want this contrived, woke kind of sense. No. I mean, I've always said, I like diversity, equity, inclusion. I want it merit-based. I want it performance-based. And I want it from stories that people want to hear about, not the ones that are being forced down our throats. And the talent has to check out a certain number of boxes. No. It's just we can have everything. We can have it all. We should be able to have it all. My question is, what will this mean for the independent movies? Because, again, this is for the big blockbusters. If they're going to go this route, to go one direction, The momentum goes all to streaming. And they think in 1 year that they do this, they're going to go ahead and step back to theaters again. They're going to be able to go ahead and turn it back around. You think they're going to do that? I don't think so. Once they start moving, I don't think they go backwards. That doesn't make any sense. Not at all. The shift, they say, takes a battle that has been brewing for years, and it brings right into the Hollywood citadel. Silicon Valley long ago invaded Hollywood from the north, with Netflix, Amazon, and Apple starting entertainment units using their deep pockets to pluck talent. Old line Hollywood has responded by building fortresses of its own. Disney with Disney Plus, Comcast with Peacock. Experts say Warner Brothers amounts to a kind of a tech coup from within. It's what happens when the telecom takes over a legacy firm and hires a digital outsider to run it. More from Christopher Nolan, by the way. He put this also to the Hollywood Reporter. They don't even understand what they're losing, quote. Warner Brothers had an incredible machine for getting a filmmaker's work out everywhere, both in theaters and in the home, and they are dismantling it as we speak. I am with Christopher Nolan. He also told Entertainment Tonight that Warner Brothers is using the pandemic as an excuse for a sort of grappling for short-term advantage. Now, there are a couple of movies by some of the financiers working with Warner Brothers, like Legendary Pictures, which is financing partly Dune and Godzilla vs. Kong in 2021. They're contemplating legal action to force an exclusive theatrical release. So, again, not everybody's happy about this. And one of the things that works with Legendary Pictures is that they are owned by Dalian Wanda, the Chinese entertainment company, one of the biggest operators of movie screens in China, a country Warner Brothers still needs to release its movies. That's what the people don't understand as well. So you're going to decimate the domestic market, and then you still have to go theatrical for overseas, but not all of them are going to get that kind of attention, right? Or they could just very well go the same way. The American theater chains are going to be hurt by this too. So Warner Brothers is still seeking box office overseas in places where U.S. companies operate screens. So that's where Regal and AMC and their types will be able to get a little bit of money coming in. But again, all their U.S. theaters will still be more or less shuttered or very ineffective. In some cases, the goal of Hollywood players will not be to stop a release, but to extract more money. Under their contracts, top talent often receive another tier of payment known as box office bonuses, which awards a percentage of global box office dollars above a certain threshold. And there are a lot of people in this mix that are going to be looking for some box office bonuses. Denzel Washington, Keanu Reeves, Will Smith, Margot Robbie, and LeBron James, to name a few. The need to pay out these stars could cost Warner Brothers tens of millions of dollars or more, compounding the loss of box office. So again, they have to make that all on streaming. They have to hope that streaming will overcompensate what they're losing on the traditional sense. Which is why it doesn't make sense why they go ahead and decide to make this whole drastic move, because it is drastic. There's a whole lot more in this story that I could go into, but I'm going to leave it there. I just think there was a whole lot that was put on that really, the corporate undertow that goes into this is just really, it's what sucks. Now, I had another story from LA Times, but it basically is the same story. Christopher Nolan's being quoted in here as well. They may mention that direct-to-consumer platforms, including Netflix, Disney Plus, Amazon Prime Video, and Apple TV, have clearly benefited through the pandemic. Though not every streaming service has succeeded under lockdown, we talked about Quibi. While somehow hold out hope that effective vaccines will lead to a return to some semblance of normalcy, there's a little doubt that many changes are here to stay. And again, the media is not helping in this matter. There is no positive silver lining here. Nothing like that at all. And also what didn't help is all the closures. 5,477 cinemas, all closed at once. And they have come up and down, and some of them have not come back. With theaters dormant, studios move blockbusters of 2021 or straight to streaming. With no movies box office down nearly 80% from last year, the multiplexes that reopened struggle to stay afloat. Many closed again or reduced hours. Others offer rentals of full auditoriums for private screenings. They're all hurting right now. And again, it's upon the studios to provide content. And then the governors of all these different states to, have some reopening if people want to go. Again, some of these lockdowns are being done in LA and New York. I don't know if they really found that, if they're based on science or not, but there's a lot of people protesting it. They're not happy about it. Just saying, there is abuse of power going on in both of those states where the bulk of the movie theaters are. And where all your talent and all your major media and entertainment moguls are based. According to a recent headline from B. Riley Securities analyst Eric Wold, again, Wall Street has confidence that theaters will recover after a vaccine becomes widely available. And it's a question of not when, of when and not if moviegoers will return. And now let's move along to Disney. So again, here's what's going on before the investor day that they had today. And their plans for Disney Plus and their plans for all their properties. Here's what's going on. So the pandemic delivered a $7.4 billion blow to Disney's operating income in the last fiscal year. And the layoffs would amount to 32,000 as a result, mostly at its theme parks. NBC Universal, Warner Media, Viacom, CBS also took big financial hits, cutting staff as they focused on growth areas, mainly streaming. So Disney's all in on Disney Plus. It's now 83 million subscribers at the latest count. NBC Universal is now using early premium video on demand, $20 rentals as its new normal, experimenting with movies like Trolls World Tour and The Invisible Man. And Peacock was launched. Studios lacking giant affiliated streamers, Sony and Paramount sold movies to Apple TV and Amazon. So that's where we are. Let's go into what Disney Plus does. Well, the money that could have gone to talent and resources and all, well, they're going to go somewhere. Streaming content, $14 to $16 billion a year. And I just read something as well, up to $25 million in the next 4 years. Wow. Between $8 and $9 billion of that will go to Disney Plus. That's more than double of what was anticipated due to surging investment on original content. They're planning over 100 new titles a year planned across its 5 key brands, in particular Marvel and Star Wars, and local production for international markets. So they're going to run those properties dry. Disney's not even hiding this anymore. They're just going to milk the MCU and the Star Wars universes bone dry. That's what their plans are. CEO Bob Chapek noted that Disney's various brands have spooled 63 series and 42 films at today's event alone. More than 80% of them are heading to streaming. Disney Plus and its international iterations will hit between 230 and 260 million total paid subscribers by next year. It will reach its peak year of losses next year and hit profitability by 2024. Damn. That is crazy. And by the way, while I'm looking at the story from Deadline.com, I'm looking at remakes. I mean, like, I'm looking right now on the little sidebar. I'm like, oh, God. iCarly is getting a revival now. So they're going to get all those kids back for doing that show. What has it been, like 10, 15 years? And there's going to be a Sister Act 3. Did we ask for Sister Act 3? And Indiana Jones 5. Oh, boy. Wow. Netflix will spend this year an estimated $17 billion on talent, or on content, excuse me. Now, I'm going to get into a story. I'm going to wait till my When I'm Not Podcasting series to go and talk about it because there's just so much to go and talk about. 10 Star Wars series, 10 Marvel series, and more to debut on Disney+. And it is everything you could think of. They threw every little milking of the cash cow, okay? I'm going to just go ahead and put it like this and just say when I look at the movies and I say, okay, Star Wars, I'm going to do it in the voices of the people. Like, just imagine, okay? All right, first of all, you're going to get Mandalorian spinoffs. You're going to get Star Wars spinoffs. We're going to get Rogue One spinoffs. We're going to get Droid spinoffs. We're going to get, off of like manga kind of stuff, right? Anime type, Japanese type of animations, short stories, 10 series from that. Then Marvel's going to have their own thing where they're going to have so much going on. You're going to have The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which will be a series. Loki, based on Thor, a series. Ms. Marvel will be a series, which will be then attached to Captain Marvel 2. Then you got Hawkeye will be a series. She-Hulk will be a series. I will do that on a separate When I'm Not Podcasting to go through that whole part about that a little bit later on. But what I do love is the pushback on everybody out here. So we have Directors Guild of America saying this is completely unacceptable. What's going on? And they're going to look at what they need to go and do in terms of, do they need to go ahead and, look at legal actions? CAA's boss, Richard Lovett, looking at the same thing. Because he said that, you made a decision, quote, to release our clients' movies in an unprecedented manner, without consideration of our clients' desires or contractual rights, plainly violating the rights of a number of our clients who hold approval rights over distribution plans and streaming selections. Not a good idea to what they did. Not a good idea. Again, and just to clap back on the Warner Brothers executive that got this email, that deadline was able to get released out. Quote, you chose to release our clients' movies on your own streaming service without any input from or discussion with our clients, and you made no effort to negotiate with or otherwise seek out market rate details with other streaming services. This is the epitome of a self-interested corporate maneuver intended to benefit your company while wreaking havoc on the industry and ignoring and greatly damaging our clients' creative and financial interests. Boom. Mic drop. There's too many people upset about this deal that's going on now. And like I said, there's so much more to talk about it. I don't want to go ahead and hamper on the show here because I got to get to the interview with Warren Cohn, but I will go ahead and get to it a little bit later on. I want to go ahead and put this into a When I'm Not Podcasting episode. And there's so much other stuff I could talk about when it comes to journalism. I'm going to hold that all off to When I'm Not Podcasting this week. I want to do some episodes for that. And please, by all means, do go ahead and subscribe to the show. When I'm Not Podcasting, you can find a link for it right on broadcasterspodcast.com, or you can find the show through all the places you can find podcasts. So Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, and so many other places. Go look for it. It's great. I put so much more content that doesn't even make this show. And again, I do it all for free. And all I do is put a little couple bit of ads in between. That's all I do. And because of the ads I've put in here, I will be getting a nice brand new microphone that I'll be dropping right here onto this boom mic so that I can have it for next week. I hope my voice will sound even better and I won't be so tongue-tied and my mouth won't feel so dry talking throughout the day like I normally do when I do this so late at night. So anyway, time for me to go move along into my feature interview, part one of my interview with Warren Cohn. Again, we're going to talk about crisis management. We're going to talk about PR, social media, influencer marketing, and so much more. Again, we're going to go ahead and go into the introduction with him. I'll leave it to myself as I did it when I recorded with him a few weeks back. Again, two-part interview. You're about to hear part one of it right now here on the Broadcasters Podcast. Enjoy. My guest founded a New York City-based public relations firm that focuses on providing expert services to its clients, specializing in traditional public relations, social media and digital advertising, company and personal branding, website development, and crisis management. I'm here with the CEO and founder of HeraldPR, Warren H. Cohn. Thanks for joining us here, Warren.
Thank you so much for having me today, Jorge.
Hey, my pleasure. Glad to have you. So I want to go and take the interview that we're going to be putting out over a couple of parts for the Broadcasters podcast. I want to take it into two different categories. First, I want to talk about influencer marketing and social influencing, the idea of the branding and using influencers versus celebrities to be brought on for brands. And then I want to go ahead and jump in later on to talk about crisis management, which you've had a lot of experience through your team throughout. We'll go ahead and talk about that pretty extensively later on. But first, let me go ahead and point our listeners to a 2019 Forbes article that you wrote. And you said, quote, "In today's day and age, social influencing can be misconstrued as young adults who post product reviews and photos for likes online, but don't get it twisted. These influencers could be the key to bringing your company or brand big business in the coming year. Typically, an online influencer has built an online community large and small through various social platforms surrounding their niche topic. As an influencer works to create relationships through authenticity, their online community not only continues to grow, but members begin to place trust in any brand recommendations or product endorsements the influencer may have. This allows the influencer to represent control of an audience segment that is important to your business. So regardless of how you define or view a social influencer, one thing is clear: an influencer has the power to influence or persuade an audience," end quote. So talk to me about your firm's work in influencer marketing and, how it's worked for you, because obviously I see that transition as well, that there is a lot more appeal for influencers to be brought in to a particular segment to try to reach an audience that might not be tapped through traditional or established routes.
Well, I have to start off by saying that initially, and that article, goes back a year and even a couple of years before that, I was geared and focused more. I've always been more focused on, micro influencers or nano influencers because of, because of the trackability and the analytics, behind it. So what I'm saying is, I used to have a fly swatter, towards influencers. We'd be pitching reporters, we'd pitch, people in the blogosphere. And then they would respond back, "Oh, well, for, X amount of dollars, I can introduce you to this influencer." And as we saw it growing, I was hesitant because we're in earned media and public relations initially was hesitant because I didn't want to say, "Hey, client, pay us X amount a month for us to get you opportunities," and then get earned media. And then, "Hey, here's another bill," or "Here's another thing." But, as times progressed from the 2016-17 range to now, we find that more and more clients want us to be presenting those opportunities to them. And if it's the right opportunity, they're willing to pay for it. What I meant earlier about focusing on nano or micro influencers and why I really believe in that is because influencers, think about the word, have influence. And if, I always use the example with clients, you can give Kim Kardashian $1 million for something, and most likely it will get likes, it'll get shares, maybe you'll get some articles out of it. But does she connect, or does that particular influencer connect with the target audience and target market, and will they convert sales? In around 2017, I actually invested in a company called Shopper, and they were based out of Israel. They were built around the nano influencer market. I think they were a little bit too early to market, and unfortunately, lost. They didn't have enough infusion to really build, but they had an amazing platform that was purchased, obviously under value, by someone else when they were closing up shop. But their whole idea was, if Jorge or Warren post something to their network, there was a trackable link. So I would get a link from Amazon, just like on YouTube, if the affiliate links. So, but they made everything into an affiliate link, and you were able to track and then have a dashboard of what that influencer, the sales through for that influencer, and what they were actually delivering for you as far as ROI. And therefore pay them based on that. And therefore you were creating a real market, unlike the market that exists today, which is, this is my appearance fee, this is my post fee, which I thought then and still now is sometimes exorbitant because it's hard to tie the results to it.
When you are looking to bring on clients or those that might be approachable, where is the most appealing place to find an influencer? Would it be more YouTube or TikTok, or which platforms are you looking at that are much more viable to find those influencers now than others?
It really depends on the client. We serve clients in the corporate and executive leadership space. We might find an influencer on LinkedIn or somebody in that space. If it's more of a consumer product or a jewelry line, we've certain or health and wellness. We've done a lot in that space, which doesn't usually mesh well with crisis, but we do both of those and enjoy that space. With that, it's more TikTok, Instagram, a little bit of Snapchat early on, but that has other uses. And in the mommy world, certainly Facebook, because that's the mommy groups. And again, I don't need a famous influencer. I can, find a mommy who has, 1,500 followers who has, who can make an impactful sale there or a recommendation, and boom, there, catches like wildfire. But also bloggers. There's plenty of bloggers who have a decent amount of followers, and we'll look at them as well.
And that's one thing, is that when it comes to marketing, there is the area where some people might go and use the affiliate marketing is always taken that space where they've worked on particular nano spaces or just somebody that's very hyper local or hyper regional to what you're looking for. But then also to kind of create this where you can put somebody up in front of a product or a brand. One thing this is where I think is very important to me, and it's just a direct question that I normally don't write up when I do a show like this and prep for it. But I thought this was a question I think would be absolutely crucial to where I'm coming from. When it comes to the evolution, the digital disruption, I talk about this all the time. When it comes to the effect of how the corporate media establishment, the entertainment establishment are crumbling, and they are falling, they're struggling so badly to have people stop from cutting the cord, to have people stop from, not buying CDs or cassettes and having everything being digital so you could just subscribe or you could download albums and all that kind of stuff. And see that with television, trying to keep people to watch on television as opposed to streaming. Now, do you see the times are changing to where the value of an influencer's reach to a large audience is now a more viable option than it is where the establishment wants to go through an agency, studios, managers, and push a large upfront fees to bring a famous person or celebrity on board that was made through an established medium?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that influencers are the disruptor of that, of a typical ad campaign at agency. I have seen, and we've seen in the industry, I'm sure you've seen that more and more folks are that are successful influencers or those rising rising star influencers are starting to get agents and managers, or at least someone to help coordinate everything. But certainly, I think that's a more direct channel. And again, when with content being more, and ads being on Roku, Apple TV, smart TV channels, and those streaming devices, you can target your audiences a lot better than the widespread blank, throwing shit at a wall of, national, television. And I think that it's certainly moving in the direction of that. And I do think, again, I criticize influencers back in the day, but I definitely think that if you target correctly, like you said, if it's regional or national, and you find the right person to drive sales or awareness for your brand, that I think that it's definitely moving in that direction, and I think it'll only continue to grow.
And I'm seeing the stars that are going on the different platforms now, and celebrities that during the pandemic have learned to integrate themselves into different platforms. There's that to be said. Plus, the biggest example of a failure of celebrities trying to create a brand or product, Quibi. Look at that. Fell apart in 8 months.
Billions of dollars. Yep.
$2 billion in investment. I'm sure you know some people that were probably part of this, and a lot of movie studios and a lot of big companies. They went by Jeffrey Katzenberg and Meg Whitman with a lot of credit. I give them a lot, but look at that. That kind of money can go into that, but then I can see others that can bring millions of dollars another way. Like, why? When you see something like that, I wouldn't want to go and go that route either. That just takes that right there alone this year in 2020 makes me say that a celebrity, their value has plummeted.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly think so. And I you know what? Again, I started my businesses. I started my first business, HeraldPR, at 24. And I know I'm in public relations and digital, but I consider myself an entrepreneur. Any entrepreneur, any startup founder, you have to be hungry. You have to have drive. You have to find ways to get $1 million for $100,000. So to be able to directly go to influencers that can, help drive awareness and traffic to your business as a startup founder it evens the playing field in many ways.
It's amazing just the people that are able to get the kind of institutional money, and where the institutional money doesn't want to put it into projects that can grow. They just want to try to go to something they think is going to be is a sure thing. And there you go. Sure thing, not even close, but there you go. Now, Exchange for Media, they recently wrote this. Quote, industry players say with the heralding of the festive season, brands will look to create influencer marketing campaigns, and PR firms will be key in vetting of influencers. According to the World PR report for 2020, influencer marketing will witness an upsurge in PR investment, followed by multimedia content creation. And according to a recent survey by influencer marketing platform Zefmo, nearly 92% of marketers will return to influencer marketing campaigns this year. This brings in a huge market indicator. So the obvious question is how PR firms are fulfilling brands' need for influencer marketing, and why are brands betting on their PR firms for more engagement and value creation? How do you answer that question, Warren?
So first, I'll say that we have relationships with some influencer marketing agencies where that's their sole focus and specialization, and they're very good at what they do. So pre-pandemic, there were times where we would outsource to them. But again, over time, as I always say with advertising, if I give $60,000 to the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times, I can, get ad copy for $1,000 and they'll place my ad. So the same thing, I can reach out to an influencer if I'm targeting them, and if I have the right budget and the right product, boom. But with that said, especially during the pandemic now, there's plenty of opportunities as far as marketing and advertising goes. But I think overall people are hesitant, fearful, and pulling back budgets. So they're leaning on public relations firms or agencies that they trust and they're already working with to vet and to engage influencers. And I think that will continue to grow. We're happy to do that for clients, and we do that more often now. But again, it's about targeting. Like, for instance, we had a sunglass company that was kind of like Oakley's, based in Alabama, the Gulf Coast of Florida, Texas, Louisiana. Now, we're not going to reach out to a Kim Kardashian. We're not going to reach out to, sorry, Kim, I keep using her. But we're not going to reach out to a big influencer.
We're not going to Duck Dynasty or anything like that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, we're going to find someone who might be smaller, who's more affordable, who's in the local market, who hangs out in the Gulf Coast or is in a country band or has some influence like that. So we're very selective, and we choose, just like we pick media outlets for clients, that we think will affect their bottom line. We do the same thing, with influencers. And again, I think that I was hesitant in the past, but I've opened up, my feelings for it, to reflect our client needs and desires. And I think the pandemic has certainly poured some gasoline on that right now.
And really, I wanted to bring up that Exchange for Media article because, again, how PR firms are driving influencer marketing for brands. I thought it was a great article. And again, I want to take one more thing from there. I just wanted to point that out for listeners if you want to go look for it. More from the article, the democratization of branding and marketing space due to the rise of digital media began in the early years of the last decade, say experts. Quote, with the world pivoting more and more towards digital, these content creators have a head start in their digital reach and engagement. With the shrinking size of newsrooms, there's an opportunity for influencers to produce engaging content. That's from Archana Jain, who is Managing Director and CEO of PR Pundit. She also says, quote, influencers are very accomplished and publishing attractive photo and video features. The world is snacking on video content at present, and influencers make snackable, bite-sized content almost effortlessly. Shorter attention spans make this very effective for new product announcements, for reviews, and for do-it-yourself guidance. They're able to grab the attention of readers, adding a layer of relatability and authenticity. So do you see a time where influencers will make the need for celebrities extinct? Do you think that's where we're going to go?
I mean, look, reality television has grown tremendously, and a lot of networks have pivoted toward, again, I know that we're talking about them dying, but over the last 20 years, we've pivoted towards reality television because they were cheaper for the networks, but they still get great ratings and can sell ads off the backs of them. And then obviously 10 years in, then they become a celebrity and they're worthwhile. But the answer is I could see that happening. I think we'll still have celebrities, not like, the Queen and princes and royalty in England, because I always, say that our celebrities in the US and gossip columns are similar to that. Yeah. But I definitely see that, it evening the playing field and creating opportunities for a lot of people who have influence and market. But I also, if I may say that as a PR person, there are times when PR and the influencers overlap. Snackable and consumable content is fantastic. We do have shorter attention spans. There's so much content and so many platforms out there. But there are times, and we've had clients where we've brought on an influencer and it makes the PR job easy. You just get a splashy story in Page 6 or TMZ, and then it goes viral from there. And then again, it comes full circle. It goes back into the digital sphere and, through going viral on digital and social. But I certainly think that I don't think we'll lose celebrities anytime soon as far as having that mega influence. But I definitely think that influencers are gaining a foothold.
What I'm saying by that is I think that the level of fame and the level of popularity, it's not going to be as fever pitch as it once was. I don't think we're going to have that box office, just the real, the person that's going to be on that marquee really that stands out much anymore. Because I think talent, it will just bring the room up for talent now, as opposed to stardom or popularity. I think that's what happens. I think we're getting a lack of those kind of stars that can have the kind of star power to drive, people to go to the theaters to go watch a show or to watch a movie or to watch a TV series. I just don't think that's, even with network TV, that's when you were talking about when we were talking about reality TV shows clouding the lineup throughout the 2000s. But what happened as well is that network shows were still able to go and bring on certain stars, and even cable shows would bring on actors that had a very good pedigree beforehand. They would bring them on the shows. Okay, get them on board. They already have, some movie experience. We're going to bring them back to television, spend a lot of money on them, and let's get them to go and do shows. And we saw that happen for a number of people, but then it changed. Now, network TV can't draw anything. They're using reality shows even more. And anything that's network doesn't fly. And cable, all the scripted series, they're not going to cable because of an eroding market. They're going to Netflix. And so there are a handful of stars that are able to go and make themselves, relevant now, moving over to streaming, but then that's it. It's like, what are you going to do? My thing is, you want somebody that's on this, still it's a matter, I think you want somebody that's on the way up, that's relevant, that's hot now, and not somebody that was hot, and then you have to go and pay for what they were as opposed to who they are now.
I mean, what you just said makes me think of I forget his name, but he got a bunch of news stories. The guy who was the cranberry drink.
The Mad Dog, Fleetwood Mac, right?
Yeah, Ocean Spray riding down the street on his skateboard. What talent does he have? Nothing. But he might be an influencer. No, I'm serious. No,
right.
But he could now be an influencer. Ocean Spray delivered him a beautiful new red pickup truck, a year's supply of Ocean Spray, and that did well for both of them. So I think there will be an erosion of talent as far as people getting paid to do things. But I think it remains to be seen. I would bet on more and more folks that are popular but not talented. Are going to have influence, in the world.
Not to mention, there was a part that I mentioned where Fleetwood Mac, because of the song being put underneath the soundtrack of that, the song went up to number 22, I think it was, on the Billboard chart. It got back up into the Billboard charts again, resurged, and I think it was 300 million downloads in the last 3 weeks of all their music, and the entire catalog of Fleetwood Mac being sought out again by millennials and Gen Xers. That's incredible. You can't pay for good publicity like that.
No, you definitely can't. That went viral, and the fact that Stevie and the other they all did their own version of it. It was fascinating and fun to watch from the sidelines.
Oh, Mick Fleetwood. Stevie Nicks and all those, man, they're happy. They could probably go back on tour if it wasn't for pandemic. It's amazing what that does, and also worldwide acclaim because it brought them back, and it was just this little video that did everything. And TikTok, then I see they are milking that right now. They put out their own advertising to push that right there, and smart, because it's amazing what draws the attention of your layman viewer, and that's the secret of what a PR firm wants. They want to know what is that one thing that's going to blow up and make your client famous.
Yeah, and it also showed you the speed at which we have to work sometimes. I mean, we definitely do that. And I know we're going to talk about it later on the crisis management side.
Yes.
We have to go along the news cycle. But the same thing, with something that's going viral, it's not wait till Monday morning for me to be able to capitalize on that. It's Saturday night. It just happened. Let's jump right on that, get the team together, and use another digital disruptor, Slack, to get everyone together and jump on that idea and capitalize on in whichever way possible, because here today, gone tomorrow.
I got part 2 coming up next week. Make sure to go and look out for that. And until then, thank you again for listening to the show, as you always do. So much more to get into next week. And we'll have part 2 of my interview with Warren Cohn for all of you to go and check out as well. Until next week, remember the content is your king. Content is king. And the control of your content is in your hands.
Thank you for listening to the Broadcasters Podcast, presented by broadcasterspodcast.com and kingofpodcasts.com. The Broadcasters Podcast is brought to you by kingofpodcasts.com/Amazon. If Amazon is good enough for the King of Podcasts, it most certainly is good for you. kingofpodcasts.com/Amazon. And don't forget to check out the King of Podcasts wrestling program, The Wrestling is Real podcast, exclusively at kingofpodcasts.com.